Hello, and welcome to the second of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie ITN 2018 webinars from the Irish Marie Skłodowska-Curie office. My name is Elena Martinez. I am the national contact point for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie program in Ireland, based in the IUA with support from the Irish Research Council. In this webinar, I will give you an overview of the ITN 2018 Excellence section and some general points regarding the submission of the application. Before I go into the details, just to remind you that the Irish Marie Skłodowska-Curie office provides a range of supports for the ITN 2018 call, which consists of a handbook, a series of webinars, of which this one is the second, on-site clinics, and proposal reviews closer to the deadline. So the submission, first of all, the submission to ITN proposals and as for all Marie Curie actions happens through an online submission system called SEP. Applicants will sign up for the call and create the proposal by visiting the participant portal at this link provided, or you can also Google it. The application consists of three parts. Part A, which are online forms, and parts B1 and B2, who are both uploaded as PDF to the system. All three parts are submitted together. However, the submission can be overwritten multiple times, so we advise applicants to submit early and submit often, because if something goes wrong, at least the system would have the latest version to be considered for review. The administrative forms are prepared electronically within the SEP system. Section 1 contains general information about the proposal, such as acronym, title, selection of the evaluation panel, and project duration. Section 2 requires data on participating organizations, such as the PIC number, the legal name and contact details and name of the person in charge at the host organization. The PIC number can be requested if the organization doesn't have it yet, and it's quite a quick process. Section 3 is the budget, which is calculated automatically for you by the system. Section 4 is the ethics table, where you will answer yes or no to a series of questions regarding ethical issues. This is particularly relevant for animal work or work related to humans. And Section 5 requires information on partner organizations. Again, name, pick country, the type of sector, and their role in the program. The abstract in Part A helps the research executive agency staff assign proposals to the evaluators and evaluators to agree to review your proposal, because before they accept to review the proposal, this is the only thing that they will see, with some information from the applicants as well. So we advise you to be concise, but however, to provide enough technical and research information to help the officers and the evaluators understand the scope of your proposal. And the abstract should reflect the whole proposal, including the overall research theme, the research objectives, the training objectives, and the potential impact of the research and training program, including the career paths for the early stage researchers. Part B is structured as is outlined here. So the maximum length is 34 pages in total. The start page is 1 page, the table of contents is 1 page, the list of participants is 2 pages maximum, and then the excellence, impact and implementation, which consists of the actual body of the proposal, have a maximum length of 30 pages, but there is no section page limits allocated to each one of these 3 sections. So we advise you to let yourself be guided by the weighting of these different criteria, which, as I will show soon, is 50% of your points for excellence, 30% for impact, and 20% for implementation. As a rough guideline, you can allocate the same number of pages in the draft and then adjust as your proposal requires. So general points about writing your proposal. Use a self-explanatory title and a memorable acronym. This will help the evaluators remember your proposal. Use a clear and readable font. Diagrams, charts, tables, and figures are easier to evaluate than text and save space, and font size can be as small as 8 or 9 in tables. So we advise to make good use of these tools in the body text. For the submissions, don't just use the evaluation summary report from the previous submission to revise. Look at the proposal as a whole to find room for improvement, because the evaluators will be different in the next time around anyway, and they will not have access to your previous proposal or score when they evaluate. So take it as a fresh submission and look at it with fresh eyes. Be aware of the overall weighting of each criterion. As I mentioned, 50% for excellence, 30% for impact, and 20% for implementation. However, this is a competitive program and you will need to score well in all sections in order to be funded. And finally, educate the evaluator. The research executive agency staff do their best to match the evaluators with specific expertise related to the proposal and the descriptors that you will have used to define your research area. However, a good number of evaluators will not be expert in the specific subject area of your proposal. You will have 4 evaluators, remote evaluators for each proposal. So it is important to write in a style that is accessible to the non-expert, using figures, tables, charts, and diagrams to illustrate where appropriate. And of course, balance this out with the need to provide enough technical information to evaluate the content of your proposal. So these are general points about the layout. I'm not going to go through them all. They're not evaluated per se, but it makes life easier for the evaluators. It makes your proposal much easier to read. It helps the evaluators be guided through your proposal. So make good use of the template. Do not change the headings. Use the template. Use a very clear and legible format, and be consistent with your language. So I'm going to go through the excellence section now, which is the first section in the proposal template. As I was mentioning, 50% of the overall score will come from this section, which is divided into 4 subsections. 1.1, which is about excellent research. 1.2 is about excellent training. 1.3 is excellent supervision. And 1.4 is an excellent consortium. So starting with section 1.1, an excellent research program. So this section is about justifying and demonstrating the excellence of your research. So it is divided into a few subheadings, the first of which is an overview and introduction of the program. Use this as an executive summary of your program, is to say, give immediately a sense of what is the problem, why is it important, how are you going to address it, and who is going to address it in terms of the consortium. The how being the research program, and above all, the training program for excellent researchers in this field. So this section ideally could take 1 to 2 pages, possibly including a good figure if space allows. The why, which is the relevance and timeliness of the research questions, can be demonstrated by citing relevant sectoral policies for which we have mentioned 2 links to EU policy and OECD policies in our handbook. You will find a policy in every sector, so we really recommend that you have a look at those. Define here a clear and focused research goal or research aim or research topic, which is the overall research theme of your proposal, and then define specific research objectives. Make them clear, focused, and upfront. Possibly number them as O1, O2, O3, because then this will allow to relate the work packages in the methodology to the same numbering later. Introduce here the key state-of-the-art by citing a few relevant, up-to-date bibliographic references in the footnotes. The state-of-the-art can be expanded upon later, but it's important to introduce and, I would say, demonstrate immediately the novelty of your research here straight away. And as I was saying, clearly but briefly explain the novelty of your research compared to the state-of-the-art. And you can start or conclude this overview of your program with a short paragraph which summarizes the overall ITN program, your overall ITN program, which is a training program. And so you can use and tweak this wording that we have provided here in your proposal. So after the overview, the template guides you to define the methodology in 1.1.2, where you're expected to describe in detail how the research objectives will be explored. So this section is expected to define the details of the methodology, such as equipment, techniques, assays, types of research, method. Be specific. If there are methods that have a name, name them. So show the evaluators, the expert and non-expert evaluators, that you are an expert, and give them as much detail as you can, because the novelty of the methods could also feed into the novelty of your overall program. The lack of clarity around methodology is often identified as a weakness. And explain here how the work is inter or multidisciplinary, if it is the case, and it should be the case because this is an evaluation criterion. And if there are any gender or sex differences that can affect the performances of your research work, and this relates in particular to work with animals. For example, if you work with mice, are you going to separate your populations by gender? Or if you work with humans, and the closer the research is to the users, the more relevant are the gender aspects of the research, which should be taken into account. So if you're looking for examples for all research areas, which span from not only the life sciences, but also engineering and very much social sciences or biomedical sciences, there are examples in this link that we have provided here. So it is important to break down the research program into discrete work packages that link to your research objectives. Typically, a proposal will have 3 to 4 research work packages, and you can number them to relate them to the specific research objectives that you have defined before. You give a brief work package summary here, and detailed work package tables should be in section 3.1, but there again, be brief, but also explain clearly what each work package is going to address. There will be other work packages as well in your Gantt chart that relate to the management, the training, and the communication of your outputs, and I will cover these in the separate webinars that cover the impact and implementation sections. And explain how the fellows projects fit into the work packages. And then in section 3, in the implementation, you will have an opportunity to define the individual research projects of the fellows as well. And finally, the last subheading of the research section is the originality and innovative aspects of the action. So here again, you can expand if needed on the state of the art in the research area, and also explain how the doctoral training that you are proposing or research training is innovative compared to previous ones, either in the EU, so you could have had previous ITNs, or has there been a previous training in the Erasmus Mundus program, for example, in your field, but also beyond, not just in Europe. This is supposed to be a globally competitive project. So this is it for section 1.1. And now we're going to move to section 1.2, which is about the training. So ITNs are not just a research project. They're not just a training project either. It's a program for research training. So section 1.1 dealt with the excellence of the research program. 1.2 is about the excellence of the training program. So the ultimate goal of the ITN program is to produce fellows who are highly employable. So start with a list of training objectives, including developing 3 types of skills, which are core research skills, which are the ones that the fellows will acquire hands-on via their individual projects. Advanced and additional research skills that can be delivered through the network-wide training by the consortium, and transferable skills delivered by the consortium, and particularly those useful in non-academic careers. There are 3 modes of delivery. One is local, which will be offered at the main host organization where the fellow will work. So each fellow will have a main host organization. So for example, a university who will have a program of training for their PhD students, to which the ESRs, certainly the recruited ESR at the main host organization, but possibly also the other ESRs in the rest of the consortium can have access. Network-wide training is offered by the consortium at specific events, such as through workshops and summer schools, conferences. And also the secondment program is very important to demonstrate that the fellows are being exposed to the other sector. So visits by each fellow to other beneficiaries or partner organizations are very important as well. The training should be described in detail. So describe the local training followed by the network-wide training. And I should reiterate here that the training should also be specific in what type of skills it is equipping the fellows with. So describe the local training, describe what is offered for the fellows at their main host, and outline any mandatory training that they will have to take locally, for example, to be eligible to be awarded a PhD at the end of the program. Local training also includes their research project. Network-wide training should be specific about the details of each event you will organize. You can modify the table that is provided in the template. So define when and where the training will take place, what topics will be covered, how long it will last, who will deliver the training. And generally, the practice is to open up the last training to the wider research community or even to the public. So it is typical to have a final conference. So I would advise to write the training as a set program already at the start, almost like a conference program, defining all of these details in the table. For ETNs, earning a PhD is not mandatory. However, even if it's not the case, and I would say it is recommended, however, that the PhDs are awarded at the end, even of ETNs, because it has become the standard. But even if not, earning a certain number of ECTS credits via the local and network-wide training is becoming the norm and is, of course, mandatory for European joint doctorates. So still in terms of training, the complementarity between the local and network-wide training is achieved by having a personal career development plan for each fellow. A personal career development plan will include at least a personalized analysis of the requirements and goals of the planned training for the fellow, a list of courses to be taken by the fellow during their program, including the ECTS credit requirements, a list of communication and dissemination activities, and a tentative schedule for their program, including the secondments. You will not have to define all these details of the PCDP in the proposal, but it's good to mention this outline and just simply to mention that this will be drafted and agreed upon and followed. So the personal career development plan will be prepared at the start of the ITN between the fellow and their supervisor or supervisory committee. And it should be reviewed at least every 6 months. And this should be mentioned in the proposal. And explaining the contribution of the non-academic beneficiaries and partner organizations in the training program is very important as well, particularly when they really should be delivering some of the network-wide training. So done with section 1.2 about the training. Section 1.3 is about demonstrating the excellence and quality of the supervisors. So the experience of the supervisors can be detailed in the section 5 in the participating organizations tables. However, here it is important to demonstrate the collective quality of the research supervisors in training researchers and hard evidence such as relevant bibliographic metrics, for example, or mentioning specific publications and so on is very useful. So there is not enough space to write one paragraph per PI, but it's good to write a collective statement, mention the partner organizations as well, because the fellows are likely to have an additional co-supervisor in the partner organizations where they undertake their secondment, and includes, in terms of hard evidence, a table outlining the number of PhDs graduated by each supervisor, number of postdoc mentored, and where they are now, plus details of the quality. And again, notable grants, papers, or other measures of esteem are a good thing to show in this section. And the last section, finally, is the interaction between the participating organizations, which would be seen as really the excellence of the consortium. Why is this consortium best placed to deliver on this training and research program? So describe what tasks each participant, such as beneficiaries and partner organizations, will undertake in the research and training programs. You can use a table to do that. In terms of synergies, show why this consortium is best placed to deliver the program, and describe the added value of working together to deliver this program. So what the information that this section is requiring is demonstrating how is the proposed output of this consortium greater than the sum of its parts. And information on previous collaborations between the participants and successful outputs is very important. So joint publications, previous participation in other funding programs, and you can mention them. Was it another cost? Was it another ITN? And it doesn't have to be between all the participants, but even just some. And finally, still in this section, you will have to reiterate, I would say, and clarify even further how the fellows are exposed to different research environments by undertaking this program. So describe the secondments again and provide a table summarizing them. Explain how the secondments are linked to ensuring the excellence of the research and training programs. For European industrial doctorates, make sure it is crystal clear that each fellow will achieve the minimum 50% of time in the academic sector. But general for all ITNs, defining the time spent in secondment for all the fellows in the table is very important. And I would add to make sure that you don't have one fellow spending 1 month in secondment and another fellow spending 8 months in 3 different secondments. Even the exposure to the other sectors should be quite coherent and cohesive across and harmonious, I would say, across the whole consortium. So generally, it is expected that each fellow should get a secondment of at least 3 months to a non-academic beneficiary or partner organization. And of course, some fellows will be hosted primarily by a non-academic beneficiary, so those can be seconded to the academic sector instead. So this is it for the excellence section. I hope you have found this training video useful to prepare your ITN proposal. If you have any questions on the excellence section and any of the other points, please email them to mariecurie@iua.ie. We will reply to you by email, and we will also add your question to a full FAQ document that we will make available on our website. So good luck with your submission.